So today I'm comparing the Walther P22Q to the Walther PPQ22. .384. .405. .344. Alright, shooting the P22. Alright. All right, so I realize I'm way behind on this because these guns have been out for a very long time. But I still couldn't find a single video on YouTube that just specifically talked about this. So what I want to quickly do is I just want to go through the history of several Walther guns for this. All right, Walther released the P99 chambered in 9mm in 1997. Now the P22, not the P22Q, but just the P22, or sometimes it's referred to as the P22A, was released in 2002, about 5 years after the P99. The P22 was a clone of the P99, but it obviously was chambered in 22 and it was 3/4 the size. Now fast forward about 10 years later, and Walther released the PPQ chambered in 9mm in 2011. Now in that same year of 2011, Walther updated the P22 from just the P22 to the P22Q. Now when they renamed this the PPQ22, they did change a few external things. For one thing, they changed the grip type to match that of a PPQ, to be very similar to that, and a few other little changes that were made at that time in 2011. Now, about 3 years later in 2014, the PPQ chambered in 22 was released. Also, it was fairly recently announced that the P99 and the PPQ chambered in 9mm will both be discontinued in this year of 2021. This is late April 2021 right now. Only the Q4 and Q5 PPQs will continue to be made. Walther has a new line called their PDP that's going to replace the PPQ line. So the P22QD, the Q was changed back in 2011, but the D was added to it in 2017 because it was a decocker model. Now mine is not one of the, the decocker models. If you're not familiar what a decocker is, what it is the safety lets the hammer down without it firing a round that's in the chamber. Now, I've just got a snap cap in here right now, and so watch as I pull the safety down, this hammer will fall. And notice I'm not pulling the trigger. It lets the hammer fall, and if there were a round in the chamber, this would keep the hammer from firing that round. Of course, you would still follow every rule of safety whenever you're using the decocker, but that's what it does. And the P22QD was the first one of the P22s to have a captive recoil spring, and then the standard P22Qs started to have the captive recoil springs probably in around 2019 or so. Okay, I went and put these on paper at about 10 yards and they grouped very similarly. Okay, and one thing that I have to mention as I'm talking about all this is I've really been shooting it with these a lot over the last month or so. And as I was researching it, this guy right here, 1917-1911M, you'll find this guy, this user handle on several forums. This is the Walther forums, but he's on all of them, uses the same handle. I'm sure there's other people who've, commented as much as he has on this stuff, but this guy right here knows his stuff about this. And if you find him commenting on something about the P22Q or P22 or PPQ22, all of those, you've got a pretty good source of information whenever you see his stuff being presented. All right, the P22Q is clear. PPQ22 is clear. All right, so the P22 obviously has a smaller frame. It's 3/4 size, where the PPQ is basically a full-size frame gun. Okay, on the P22, and I got a snap cap in here. So the P22 is a single action, double action. What that means is this, is you can see right now that the hammer is cocked. And when I pull the trigger, it's a single action. The trigger only has to do one thing. It's got to drop the hammer. That's one action. Now, whenever I release it, it reset right there, and it goes way further out here, and it's going to be a lot harder pull. And now the trigger is in double action. And so the trigger has to do two things now. it has to pull the hammer back and release it. So watch as I pull the trigger, the hammer is going to come back, and I'm going to get to a certain point, and then it's going to release it. The PPQ22 is single action only. So here I pull the trigger, okay, released the hammer. This is hammer fired. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, and then from here, it's not going to be able to fire because it's single action only. The trigger can't do two things. It can't bring the hammer, well, in this case, it can't bring the hammer down and let it go also. The only thing this trigger can do is just let the hammer fall forward. Okay, on the P22, you can see, obviously, as I've already been talking about, it's an exposed hammer. Now, a lot of people think that the PPQ22 is striker fired. It's not. It's just an internal hammer. The hammer is in here up underneath the slide. Let me show that to you real quick. And right here is the hammer inside. You just can't see it. It's not striker fired. So this is hammer fired, just like that. Okay, the P22 mag holds 10 rounds. The PPQ22 mag holds 12 rounds. All right, on the P22, the sights for it are only adjustable for windage, for left to right. The way you account for elevation, as I said earlier, is you have to change the sights. And so in the box, it comes with 3 other sights, I believe, some taller, some lower, to account for your up and down to get on target better. Okay, on the PPQ, this rear sight is adjustable for windage and elevation. But for windage, you just have to release the set screw there and move it side to side and tighten it down where the elevation is adjusted by that screw right there. So this has a little bit more flexible sighting system here. But on the PPQ, it has blacked out sights. I think I prefer a little bit more the sights, these white dots on the P22Q though. All right, so the PPQ with an unloaded mag is about 22 ounces. And the P22 with an unloaded mag is about 17 ounces. All right, so on the P22 in single action mode, the hammer's back. Just at 4 pounds. I pulled it several times last night and it was right around 4 pounds, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more, but right around 4 pounds. Now to do it in double action mode, it's going to be a little bit over 9 pounds probably. Yep, that's where it was pulling. About 9.5 pounds or so for double action mode. So pretty heavy double action as you would expect. Okay, now for the PPQ, this was about 4.5 to 5 pounds when I was pulling. And yep, right at 5 pounds. Yep, that's what it was, 4.5 to 5 pounds when I was pulling last night. Okay, now for the trigger pull. Got this little blade safety in the trigger, pull it to right here to get to the wall. And then like I said, 4.5 to 5 pounds. It's got a pretty clean break. It kind of has a little bit that you're pulling through once you get to the wall. And then reset. It's right there. Okay, now the P22 on its trigger pull, so we're in single action right now. And it's got a pretty good pull, like I said, a little under 4 pounds. Barely any take up. Then a very clean break there. And then reset is right there. So pretty good on that. Now for double action. Pulling, 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 pulling. It's just a forever pull on that double action. Okay, now for the controls on it, the P22 has true ambi mag release. The mag release is this paddle style release right here. And so you can pull it down with your finger, you can pull it down with your thumb. Definitely can do it from both sides. Okay, the slide stop is only on the left side for the P22. And it's got a slide mounted safety, which I don't really prefer the looks of, but anyways, there's the manual safety, and it is true ambidextrous also. The safety is on left and right side. Okay, the PPQ, just like its 9mm counterpart, has true slide stop ambi. Big wide slide stop here, and same on this side over here. The mag release is only one side at a time, but you can swap it. Of course, I'm right-handed, so I want it on this side, but you can flip this around pretty easy. Put it over here for lefty. And on the PPQ, there's no manual safety. I mean, there's drop safety in here, but there's no manual safety. And then, of course, you have the trigger blade safety right there. Okay, the P22 has a cast zinc slide, and it's got a polymer frame. The PPQ has an aluminum slide with a polymer frame. And on both the P22 and the PPQ, they have some steel inserts in the slide part. For instance, one part that they have, there's a little steel pin, I'll show you in a second, that is actually where the slide stop actually catches the slide, and that steel pin of the slide rests up against the slide stop, so the slide stop is not, you know, digging into the aluminum of the slide here and not digging into the zinc slide on the P22. Now they both have the exact same takedown process. So, of course, make sure we're empty here. We're empty. Pull this little lever down. What we're gonna do is we're gonna pull this back, pull the rear end up, and it's gonna slide off. Now on the PPQ, you'll see that the recoil spring and the guide rod are not captive together. They're independent. Now, both of these have this, and I'll show you in a second, which I think this is very interesting, but on these, I'm gonna take off this little thread protector for the barrel. And what happens is that this barrel just pushes out just like this. Well, this little sleeve part comes off, and then your barrel can come out a little bit easier. Just slides off the top of there. So that's pretty interesting, and it's good for a couple things. It makes it difficult for a couple, but for one thing, I love being able to take the barrel out like this and really being able to clean it, inspect it, and, you know, do whatever I need to with it. On this little sleeve part right here, it's got one little key spot right here that fits into a little groove down here that catches that in there. And then whenever you put the barrel in here, and then you put this little thread protector on it, clamps that whole assembly together. Now on the P22, and on mine, this is really hard to get down. There we go, gotta do it just right. But same thing, you pull this lever down, pull back. Now for the P22Q, it has the captive recoil spring. Now the chamber end of these barrels is a different geometry, so they do not fit in each other. They're not interchangeable. I tried, they just don't fit each other. As far as reliability and all that, they're made from the same components, made from the same company. So, you know, I feel like they're about as good as the other one. This one has the aluminum slide where this has a cast zinc slide. But as far as durability, you know, years down the road, I think they're both going to be in the same boat on that. So in shooting, I've had a few hang-ups with these, but really very few. They've been pretty good on that. And shooting different types of bulk, cheap ammo, Winchester white box, shooting auto match, some golden bullet, that type of stuff. And they've done pretty good with that. Now the PPQ, the first time I was out, did have a little bit of issues jamming up on that stuff, but after I've cleaned it up and stuff, it's just run very, very good. So they're both good on that. Okay, now the P22, I forgot to mention this at the beginning, has a CA model for California. And the only difference on the California model is that this thread protector, it's still there, it's still a threaded barrel. It's just that it does not have the flats on here like this does, where you can put the wrench right on there. And the thread protector is like rock setted, like red Loctite. All right, so with both of these, they come right now anyways, they come with these cases. I know some of the older ones had fitted foam cases, which I wish they would have had that, but that's what these have. Both have just this kind of egg crate mesh in here, and they both come with 2 mags. They both come with the wrenches to take off the thread protector for the barrels. The P22Q comes with a different back strap, and the P22Q comes with different front sights to account for elevation adjustment. We'll talk more about that. And these are the thread protectors from both of those, because I have my adapters on there for the suppressor. I'll show that in a little bit. Okay, now the P22 for me is just a little bit small. Okay, my hands are not, you know, huge Sasquatch hands like Dave from 22 Plinkster says, but my hands are probably a little bit bigger than average. I mean, I can shoot just fine with this. I mean, I love shooting guns, any gun, so I'm good with that. But to me, it's a little bit small for my hands. So if you have really big hands, this may be pretty small, but that means it's perfect for smaller hands. Up to average size hands probably would be very good for that. The PPQ is definitely a full size, and my pinky, even without the mag in it there, gets all completely covered up with that without having to have the mag in it. And I just feel like I have better control with this. It fits my hand a lot better, and I feel like I can shoot a little bit better with this thing. But again, that's totally subjective. To, you may have huge hands and like to shoot small guns, but just for me, this PPQ feels a little bit better. Although I think I might like to trigger a hair better on the P22 in single action mode anyways, but they're both pretty good. Okay, so let me talk about these proof marks real quick. So the DE stands for Deutsch, that means it's made in Germany. The CIP over N is the nitro proof mark, that means it's been test fired. Okay, the shield with 3 crowns, get to that in a second. The last thing here, the CA, is the date code. This is not the CA model, that's just the date code that Walther uses. So the way Walther does that is A is 0, B is 1, C is 2, D is 3. And so CA is 20. My P22 was proofed in 2020. The CB is 21. My PPQ22 was proofed in 2021. Now I've got a video that goes into depth on this, so I'm not going to go into it much here, but the shield of 3 crowns tells you that this was proofed by the Cologne Proof House, which is very close to Umerex's factory in Arnsberg, or pretty close. If you have a Walther-made gun that's just a full-on Walther, it would have the Staghorn proof mark, because that would be the Ulm Proof House. The original Walther is in Ulm, Germany, and there's an Ulm Proof House also. And so if this were truly made, by the OG Walther or whatever, it would have that Staghorn on here. Now, I'm not saying that means that these are bad at all. I've got at least one other pistol that was made by Umerex/Walther, and I've got at least 4 rifles, maybe 5 maybe, that are the same thing, and I love those rifles. So I've definitely spent a lot of money on these guns. So I'm not saying they're bad quality, but that's just the truth.
314. This is
B coming to you from GNA today. Thanks for watching.